the main reason I want to do this is I know you work for the Chronicle and you're passionate about journalism, more specifically to music journalism these days, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Um, but since I've been home, I know there's been a lot of news out there, and I find myself kind of like almost scared to educate myself, so to speak. And I think, especially in times like this, that even though it can be scary, that needs to kind of go away. And I think it's the responsibility of journalism to obviously report the facts, but also like to incite hope that things could get better, if that kind of makes sense.
totally, man. I'm right there with you.
So this interview is kind of about that, and the three questions I'm going to ask are in relation to that.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, man. Sounds
Um,
good.
so cool. Um, so obviously, my name is Jason. This is for my YouTube channel. I've really enjoyed doing these little interviews with some friends and people I know. But Ryan, if you introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hi, guys. My name is Ryan Rosenberger. I am a senior at Columbia College. I actually have one more semester left, though. So this actually isn't like this whole COVID madness actually isn't ending my college career. Fortunately, I have another semester left. Anyway, I am a magazine journalism major. I also work for the Columbia Chronicle as a staff reporter. Um, and out of school, I would like kind of like what Jason alluded to. I would like to do music journalism, but I'm really haven't thought that far in advance yet. So I'm kind of taking life one day at a time right now, and just kind of, you know, taking it as it comes. But yeah, did I nail the intro? Or is there anything more you need to really know? Or I'm
No,
not good with intros.
that was pretty good. I have to say that was pretty impressive.
Excuse
Um,
me. Thank you.
but yeah, so the three questions that I have, it kind of, I guess the inspiration for this is because I'm on the email list for the Chronicle,
Okay.
and that's kind of how the idea popped into my head. Um, so I guess the first question I have written down, and I apologize that I didn't get these to you earlier in advance,
Oh, you're fine. Kind of doing this on a whim.
is how has journalism had an impact on the events going on in the world currently?
Wow, I don't even know where to begin with that. um, I think it. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
No, you're
That's
good.
just such a. I love the question. It's just such a broad thing.
It says, I wrote down, how has journalism had an impact on the events going on in the world currently?
Okay. I'm gonna start off with something very basic. Damn, I think this would be a better question for one of my editors. As it pertains to Corona, I mean, um, in its simplest form, it's just keeping people updated on things like the amount of like newly reported cases, or Corona deaths on a daily basis, or how local governments and different regions of the U.S. are and the world are responding to the coronavirus. For example, today, a couple hours ago, Governor J.B. Pritzker. I'm in Illinois, by the way, guys. Jason's viewers. I live here in Illinois, outside of Columbia. But J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, extended Illinois' stay-at-home order for another month. So I found out about that before he gave the press conference about it, because some sources close to him, or local news outlets, got in touch with sources closest to him, and they were able to break that story beforehand. So that's just a very basic example. In terms of like more complex examples, I think a lot of what the Chronicle actually is reporting on, the Chronicle, we do a lot of breaking news stories. My editors work their asses off doing breaking news stories. Like because journalism, man, it never stops. It's all
Absolutely,
the time,
yes.
and
I
you
know
know,
the Chronicle, just based on the amount of volume you guys do. I'm very impressed with it and how current and up to date you guys have been doing.
thank you. Yeah, man, everyone there works so hard. It's insane. But but my edit, I if an editor or a reporter does a breaking news story for the Chronicle, they just drop whatever they're doing, and boom, that's their main focus. Now, breaking news stories can also be it's funny, man, because we there have been times where like nearly the entire staff will collaborate. We'll have one person writing the story, we'll have a bunch of other people interviewing people, and then they'll send those interviews over to the one person who's like writing the story. Uh, and then other people, it can be as literally as simple as just passing on names for people who want to be interviewed. So it's just really funny how we do it. But I digress back to the answer to your question. The Chronicle, I think the thing I love about it is that we find a lot of really cool story angles. Um, for example, I'm working on a story right now about a grocery store, or it's like a grocery store delivery service
Right.
that they deliver like ethnic food. They deliver foods from ethnic grocery stores to your doorstep. Uh, I can't remember the name of the business off the top of my head, but so while most grocery stores are like going down right now and not really doing well because of the economy, uh, Oja Express, that's the name of the grocery store. They're booming because there's an increased demand in the city for uh, grocery deliveries and just deliveries in general. Um, and it's they're what they're doing. It's a very noble thing. So I believe they only get groceries from like immigrant owned grocery stores. So they're keeping small immigrant owned businesses in Chicago afloat during a very turbulent time, and they're also supporting Chicago's ethnically more diverse communities through that by using their business. So that's just one example, but for me, I see it as an uplifting story. That's why I wanted to do it, and I think my editors, I'd imagine they'd think the same thing. So I think the Chronicle, we're doing a lot. Not that we're doing a lot of more uplifting stuff. It really just depends on the story, but
Right.
I think we really do a great job of like telling shedding light on things that you really don't think about when it comes to being affected by a pandemic. It's we go deeper than just, this is the amount of new cases today, or this is the amount of corona deaths that are happening. And I mean, we've reported on that too, but I think we really do a great job of like telling the story from a different angle, if that makes sense. um
Absolutely. And if I could just add to that, I think that's a good that's a very that's a good way to go about it.
mhm.
Because I think some of the major news outlets are, I don't know if they're struggling or not, but one of the concerns is the news that I see, and one of the reasons I get so stressed out about it is it's like, oh, okay, it's just the same news again, and it can really, obviously, it's very important to stay up to date on everything that's going on, but when the news is very negative, especially in times of uncertainty, that's when things get a little bit like more scary, if that kind of makes sense.
No, man, you're totally right. Yeah. My mom and I were actually just having this conversation the other day about um, there's a balance that needs to be had, I think, between those two things, between staying like having to stay informed. You need to be informed in a time like this. I mean, I'm a journalism major, so any journalism major would tell you this, but it's my opinion that I think everybody should be informed all the time. But I think, especially now, um, it's especially important to be informed. But at the same time, it's not that it's not okay to turn the news off. It totally is. Man, I turn the news off sometimes. I took a
Right.
3 or 4 day break from social media last week because I just couldn't take it. because it's just, with today's journalism landscape, stories are breaking by the minute. If I refresh Twitter at like any time during the day, I'll see 3 new news stories pop up on my feed every time I like refresh it. So there does come a time where you do need to take a break, and it, you got to do what you got to do to survive and stay happy and stay healthy. And yeah, man, like if you need to turn off the news and just kind of like drop off the face of the earth for a little bit, yeah, man, like I'm not gonna lie, I do the same thing from time to time. It gets
Some
to be too
sometimes
much
more
for me
literally
as
than
well.
others.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
um, but cool. Yeah, going off of what you said, I based on kind of what I've seen with social media, I think it kind of depends on the social media platform, because some of them I think are more toxic, shall we say, than others. Um, all of it can be toxic all at once, so to speak, but I think it also depends on the platform that you're using.
what do you can you give like a specific example?
Like with like Facebook and seeing like, I don't like the term, but kind of like shit posting over and over again, and then like seeing a news story or a negative news story over and over again. Whereas like on like Instagram, it might not necessarily be any different, but you can kind of choose the types of things that you see in your feed.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think well, Instagram is different because it's more picture driven. So, all news outlets have, well, 99.9% of news outlets have an Instagram account. So you can still follow their pages and still get news from Instagram. I use the Chronicle's Instagram more than any other for news.
Right.
The Chronicle of their Instagram, I think the way we do it is really great, where we post consistently, but it's not overbearing, But with Facebook, I think this is I think our experiences on this, not between you and I, just in general, I think are very subjective. So with Facebook, the thing I've noticed is that I see the same stories over and over again. Um, because like, with Facebook, if one person shares an article and like 5 other people share it, it'll say so and so and 5 others shared this post,
I've seen
So
that too.
um, with Facebook, you definitely see the same news over and over again, I guess, is the best way to put it. With Twitter, it's just, oh my God, Twitter is a nightmare, dude. Like, so in journalism school, they really do preach for you have a Twitter account. And I understand why. Twitter is, from a reporter's standpoint, that's how you can connect with your readers, by retweeting an article or retweeting something that a government official said, so Twitter in a lot of ways is a blessing for reporters and news in general. But for me, as an avid consumer of news too, it's kind of like what I said before. It's too much. Like every time I refresh my Twitter feed, there's like 3 to 5 new stories coming at me. And like you said, just with how much doom and gloom there is right now, it's too much. I think with Twitter really feeds into the chaotic. Is chaotic the right word? Not chaos. The chaos and immediacy of our generation and the time we live in. You
Right.
know,
I understand.
it's we've had conversations about this before. It's not a good or bad thing. It's a side effect of the society we live in. And for me, as someone who really values like solitude, and I just kind of like to try and live at a slower pace than most people, which is hilarious that I'm in journalism. But Twitter is just like the Energizer bunny, dude. Like it keeps going and going and going, and it can be too much. I haven't been on Twitter in like a week, man. Because I can't deal with it right now.
Yeah, Twitter is something I don't it's the one I use the least amount of all my
Okay.
social media accounts. I do want to jump into obviously the two of us have had conversations that have literally lasted hours.
Hmm.
Um, but I want to kind of for the sake of time just get to the next two questions to stay on track.
Yeah.
Um, what are ways, or the next one says, what are ways to stay informed while also not stressing out over current events? So, kind of going off of our conversation a little bit.
Wow, man, I think for me, I'm my just the way I live is so weird and kind of I'm a very disorganized person, so I don't know if I can answer this correctly, but I would say really try and kind of maybe set up a schedule or like a time of the day where you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to sit down, you know, consume however you consume news, whether it be via going on Twitter or reading print outlets or listening to podcasts or, hell, even watching the nightly news, and be like, okay, I'm going to consume news for this amount of time each day, because I think, man, there's a lot of people who just have the news going on in their house all day, every day. Like there's people who have like Fox News and CNN just playing in their living room at all hours of the day and the night,
And obviously, there's a little
and
bit of,
they're constantly. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, obviously, there's a little bit of bias with both of those stations.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a different. That's a whole other conversation, though. I guess I'm just talking like, yeah, I guess I'm just talking, I mean, COVID it's getting wall to wall coverage right now, as it should be, I mean, it's a pandemic, man. I mean, this is literally like a once in a lifetime thing. So
Right.
us as reporters, we have to cover it and we have to talk about it and we have to keep our readers informed. I think, um, I think people need to really pay attention to how much news they're consuming. Again, I think people should be consuming it on a daily basis, but if all you're doing is watching the television or reading every print story that comes out and you're like going crazy about it, yeah, man, you should probably try and calm down a little bit, because I know for a fact, like, I'm not going to name names obviously for sake of privacy, but I know people who are just consuming themselves with it 24/7, and it's just driving them crazy. And listen, I'm not trying to sound like don't take this seriously. Like, we
Right.
need to take this seriously, like social distancing, wash your hands, stay away from people, all that. But at the same time, it if you're watching cable news or reading print articles 12 hours a day, and all you're reading about is all the new reported cases and all the deaths we have on a daily basis, yeah, you're going to drive yourself really insane with it. So I think what people should do is, 30 minutes when they get up in the morning, they're having their coffee, or 30 minutes in their bed before they go to sleep at night, just check the outlets that you get your news from, see what's up, and go on your merry day. I mean, at this point, we all know what social distancing is. I would imagine that 99% of people know what they need to do to to do their part in flattening the curve.
Right.
So I think people need to. I know this is long-winded. I'm sorry that ADHD in me is
No,
really
it's
coming
okay.
out right now. I think people just need to structure how much news they consume. Um, for me, see, my brain is just so all over the place all the time that I can't do that. Like, if I'll be on Facebook or on a normal day Twitter. Again, I'm kind of on a hiatus from that right now. But I'll just be scrolling through social media, and if I see a story that I'm like, hey, man, like I should read that, I'm gonna read it, and it can be any time of the day. But I think for people who are just consumers of news, who aren't active in covering the virus, yeah, like I think it would be good for your mental health to add some structure and put a time limit on how much you're consuming news, and to consume news more efficiently. So you're still staying up to date on everything you need to stay up to date on, you know.
Absolutely, and I think that's really important. One of the things I didn't do too well, excuse me, one of the things I didn't do too well at the beginning of this whole thing, uh, is I didn't really have that some of that structure that you were talking about. And it kind of comes and goes. I mean, obviously things are a little bit weird right now, so it's hard to have it all the time.
Hmm.
Uh, but I didn't really have that structure, so I'd go 5 days without reading anything, and then I'd read this one article that would say like, you know, the the economy is going to open up in like the next couple weeks, and I'd get all excited, and then like 5 days later, I would read that maybe it's going to open up, or just as like a couple examples, and
Hmm.
it was like a swing of like you know putting too much emotion into it over something that I can't really control as much as I might like to, so to speak.
Exactly. No, man, I feel that 100%. I've just, with this whole thing, um, I think back to last month when we all got kicked out of the dorms. I was just heartbroken, man. My friends and I were just so heartbroken. My group at Columbia, we're all just super close, and it was just kind of eerie. But when I got home, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be home for a while. I can't control. I can't. All of this is out of my control. I can't let myself be consumed with, um, be consumed by this. And I I've just tried to fill every day with, doing things I'm passionate about. I still obviously still got school. I'm lucky enough where the Chronicle, we can function remotely. So I still have my job at the Chronicle. That's great.
Right.
But other than that, man, just doing things that make me happy. Binge watching a show, like, lately I've been binge watching New Girl. I love that show. It's amazing.
Excuse
Um,
me.
I've been listening to so much music, like discovering all these new artists, and I've really used this opportunity to take a lot of time for myself, and um, I think that's what people need to try and do. I know not everyone functions like that, because like for me, I'm not extroverted. I know extroverted people are having a lot of trouble with this. For me, it's not that I
Right.
don't go out. Like, I go to a lot of shows, and I hang out with friends all the time. But I'm also more than content to just stay home on my own. Like, I know how to be by myself and entertain myself, and uh not lose my shit. So, um I don't know, man. I'm fortunate enough as to where everything that's going on really hasn't taken a toll on my mental health, man. I mean, I know there's people out there who are really struggling with all this, and I feel for them.
The last one I want to discuss is, um, what advice do you have to stay in a positive mindset?
Oh wow. This I guess that's a great point of finality, because I just gonna bring up. I'm just gonna put emphasis on a lot of the things I already mentioned. The first thing is, just try on a daily basis, because I'd imagine most people have more free time on their hands. Just try and fill your time with with um, things you're passionate about, like things that mean something to you. You know, uh, and I'm talking like super basic thing. It can be super basic things like, I don't know, watching TV or binge drinking coffee, uh, or shit, binge drinking alcohol if that's what you're into. Uh, or pursuing art or writing or painting or writing songs. We again, I kind of hate to say this, because the circumstances are so extreme, but it's like, eh, we probably will never have this much time on our hands ever again. Try and use this time to do things you're passionate about. Like, whatever it is. It could be sitting on your ass all day, listening to music and binge watching shows on Netflix. To be honest, when I'm not working or doing school things, that's what I'm doing. um, uh, um, Reach out to people, man. Keep in touch with your friends just to see how everyone's doing, and to keep the bonds close. So that's the first thing. Definitely like fill your time with things that you want to do. Um, how to advice on how to keep a positive mindset. Oh, the other important thing that goes back to your first answer. I think it's very important to structure. In short, I think people need to try and be more efficient with how they consume news. I
Right.
think you should be keeping up with everything, but at the same time, don't spend hours and hours watching Fox News or CNN or reading print every day, because not every COVID story is the same. But you're constantly going to be reminded of all of the new cases and all of the new deaths, and it's soul sucking, man. As someone who's covering it right now, it can be draining too. I mean, I've been trying to get better at it myself. I'm also trying to read non-COVID journalism. Like, I'm still reading all my music journalism outlets. I read The Athletic. That's sports journalism. I read that every day. Um, there's still a lot of stuff that isn't COVID related. So I think, yeah, being efficient with how much you consume news, try and keep a balance between staying informed, but also not obsessing over it. That's very important, you know.
And
Um,
I think the one thing I would add to that too, because we were just talking about family members just a few minutes ago, and I think it's important to realize if you are a senior or maybe you've recently graduated and you're in this situation, which my heart does go out to you if you are, by the way. Remember that this is not a time that will likely happen again. So the
Right. Like people need to understand this is literally a once in a lifetime thing, you know.
exactly. Even if like your parents or your siblings are getting on your nerves, but you're about to enter like a really competitive and time consuming job market. Know that you know it's important to also take time to uh, you know care and create those bonds with the family members too, because you know it it that time is well spent like that these days.
Yeah, no, and that's the other thing. I can't believe I didn't touch on this earlier, but honestly, the COVID news cycle by itself is only half the battle, man. The economy is that's the other side of the news coin, is that the economy, it's nothing but good news right now. And I don't want to get too deep into that. Especially since I'm on the record right now, I just we'll have
And
another
that's a
conversation about that in private.
whole nother conversation too.
Yeah, but again, it comes back to what is the news these days? It's COVID-19, all the new cases, all of the new deaths, and on the other side, it's the economy's in shambles, and graduates are going to have such a struggle finding jobs, and these things are important, and I think people need to be informed about it. But at the same time, I mean, I'm lucky I'm not graduating next month. I have another semester, but for people who are, God, I don't even know what to say to you. I feel for you. I guess try your best. Easier said than done, but try your best to really keep those who are close to you, and just keep the people in your life tight, man. Keep them close by, because those are the ones that were there before this, that are there for you right now, and who are going to be there for you after.
I think that's a really good note to end on. Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and be a part of this interview. For anyone watching, I'll have a link to one of Ryan's articles in the description below if you want to check it out. And I will
Oh,
see you
thanks,
guys,
man. I appreciate that.
of course. And then I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.